Hi Elliot, this is my video for the Modern Final Reflection. I've had a really good time in Modern. I've discovered a lot about myself, and I've discovered a lot about discovery itself, and like what I find curious as to like how I find different things. And so I'm going to start with my prior knowledge about Modern. I definitely thought of Modern, and I talked about a lot of this is similar to what I talked about in my TAP paper, but a lot of Modern was a lot of what I've already been exposed to, thinking that that was the whole thing. So I had class with Jacob Haynes, and I also had class with Laura Caramonte. Is that how you pronounce her name? Caramonte?
Close, Caramonte.
Caramonte, excuse me, yeah. So they do a lot of similar things, and then that's also like similar to what I saw, like for example Alvin Ailey's Revelations, and so I saw a lot of dance in that way. Almost, I don't want to call it competition Modern, but like a very like presentational, like for the stage kind of impressive, or what I find impressive and like showy, like tricks maybe, if you will. And so that was a lot of what I was exposed to, and I thought that was all of Modern and like Laban and that kind of vein. But there's a lot this semester that I considered more, not knowing that it also like went inside that realm as well. I also was not very familiar with, I thought, once again, like I mentioned in my top video, I thought it was popularized by white people, and then upon reading, let me see the name of it, the Introduction to Modernism by Julia Folks. I then, from reading that, I realized that, oh, it was really from marginalized people, Black people even, who are trying to break away from tradition and from other forms of dance, such as ballet and like Balanchine and all of that. And I did not know that. That's not something I was very familiar with. I thought it was popularized by white people. And also, I think what's interesting about Modern is that I think it's also hard to define where it comes from. I think that comes from a lot of different places, and it's hard to pin down, oh, this is what Modern is and this is where it came from, because we can't even really define it as a dance genre. I think it's hard to categorize it in terms of history as well. But I do appreciate Julia Folks and like the work that she wrote and contextualizing it. The next part I want to discuss is modern style and form. So once again, of things that I like had misconceptions about was when I would describe Modern at the beginning of the semester, he asked us to describe Modern to you, and I would use buzzwords of like what I thought Modern was. So I would say, oh, it's about gravity, it's about release, it's about contractions. But I think yes, it is those things, but also sometimes it's not always those things, and it's also other things as well. So a big thing that I did not consider was initiation points, and we talked about that a lot this semester of, oh, what if it initiates from your head? What if it initiates from your foot? And what if it initiates from your right index finger? I think talking about that was a new sort of vocabulary that I was not familiar with, and that I definitely do like in terms of dancing. I would love when we would talk about scores and like push and pull, up versus down. I also mentioned this in my TAP paper once again, but I think a lot of Modern is the juxtapositions of different things, so I think that's why those scores were always so effective. We would play with up versus down, and pull versus push, and reach versus the opposite of reach, pull again. But I think in terms of form, that's very important. We talked about like rounded movement, but we also talked about like lengthen at the same time, which is another juxtaposition, but in a different way. And I think that's what a lot of the Modern form is. My relationship to Modern dance and how it has shifted is definitely for the positive. Kind of rounding what I was saying earlier is I always thought Modern was like showy, and I thought of it in more of like a competition kind of sense, which I don't know why I do that. I just think when I see like competition dance and like contemporary, I think a lot of that stems from Modern movement, so I would try to emulate that. But something this semester is I've really found myself able to let go of that version of myself and just dance just to dance. And I wouldn't think about, like at the beginning of the semester, like this is my first semester having as a professor, so I really wanted to like show you like, oh, I can dance, like look at me, I can dance. But then I started finding like, oh, what if I just focus on the movement? What if I just focus on initiation? What if I focus on different intentions? And see what I could do with the dance, and that's really like my like perspective of it has shifted. And in viewing it, because we would watch a lot of videos, for example, we would look at the Fire Dance by Louis Fuller. That's not something that I would consider modern before, but in watching it I was like, oh, this is really interesting, in a lot of different shapes, and like there is no defining what modern is. So like the way I consume it as a artist and as a viewer has also shifted. I think once again, modern's hard to define, but I also love, I think going forward, it's going to find different like lights of it. I think right now, like with like TikTok and like what's popularized, I do think see a lot of that competition version of it, but I think going forward, there's going to transition, it's going to meld with other different dance forms, like with ballet, and it could be a ballet modern, even though it's breaking from ballet. I think it's like, I think the fusion of it is where it's going forward, and I'm really excited to see it going forward. And I don't know what medium or what platform it would go in, but I'm really excited to see the future of it and the future of modern dancing. And me, I don't know if I'm going to take, well, I'll probably keep taking class for it, but I don't know like if I'd find myself like in a modern studio or company. But having it influence my dance is a really impactful, and I think it allows me to use the resources that are already in my body and that physics already gives me. So I'm really excited to see the rest of my growth as a dancer. And thank you so much for class this semester. And I've grown so much as an artist, as a performer, as a dancer, as a modern dancer. So thank you so much, and have a great semester.